The Sunday evening sky hung low over Brookfield town, painted in muted shades of gray and gold. A thin drizzle had just ended, leaving the streets slick and shining beneath the amber streetlights. Inside their small, cozy house at the edge of town, Emma Collins zipped up her brown jacket, grabbed her car keys, and smiled at her husband, Tom. "I'll be quick," she said, slipping her purse over her shoulder. "We're out of milk and bread." Tom looked up from the couch, where a football match played softly on the TV. "It's Sunday, Em. Can it wait till morning?" Emma laughed, brushing a strand of blonde hair from her face. "You know me. I can't start Monday without my tea and toast." She leaned down, kissed his forehead, and headed out the door. The sound of her car starting echoed faintly through the damp air. The clock on the wall read 6:21 p.m. Outside, everything felt calm, almost too calm. A faint fog crept across the fields, soft and ghost-like. Emma turned on the radio, humming along to an old love song as she drove down the nearly empty road. The town lights faded behind her as the familiar blue glow of Brookfield Market came into view. She parked near the entrance, the fluorescent sign flickering weakly above the glass doors. Inside, only a handful of shoppers moved slowly between aisles, their faces pale under the harsh white lights. Emma smiled politely at the cashier as the automatic doors slid shut behind her. The sound of the outside world, the rain, the wind, the soft hum of her car, vanished completely. And in that moment, though she didn't know it yet, Emma Collins had already crossed the line between ordinary life and a mystery that would never be solved. The bell above the entrance jingled faintly as Emma stepped into Brookfield Market. The store had that strange late-night stillness, quiet enough that every squeak of the floor echoed. The air smelled faintly of detergent and stale bread. A slow, haunting tune played from an old ceiling speaker, distorted every few seconds by static. Only 3 other shoppers were inside. An elderly man reading soup labels, a teenage boy scrolling on his phone near the snack aisle, and a woman in a long gray coat who didn't seem to be shopping at all. She just stood near the freezers, staring at her reflection in the glass. Emma grabbed a basket and walked toward the dairy section. The cashier, Mr. Grant, gave her a polite nod. "Evening, Miss Collins. Late run tonight." "Just the essentials," Emma replied, smiling. Her voice echoed faintly, as if the store swallowed sound. As she moved through the aisles, the lights above her flickered. Once, then again. She stopped, looking up, but the ceiling fans kept turning lazily, and everything seemed normal. She shrugged it off, adding milk, eggs, and bread to her basket. CCTV later showed her walking calmly down aisle 7. She paused by the canned goods, checked her list, and looked straight toward the camera, her face blank like she'd heard something. Then she stepped out of frame and never appeared again. The other shoppers claimed they didn't notice her leave. One even swore she was still in the store when the lights dimmed briefly at 6:42 p.m. But when the video was reviewed, the footage from that moment seemed to skip, as if someone had cut a small piece of time right out of the recording. No one saw Emma Collins walk out, but the motion sensor on the exit door triggered one last time that night. The digital clock on Tom's phone blinked 8:17 p.m. Emma had been gone nearly 2 hours. She'd only planned to grab a few groceries, milk, bread, eggs. Nothing that should take this long. He tried calling her again. The ringtone echoed endlessly before going to voicemail. "Hey, it's me," he said, trying to sound calm. "You okay? Call me when you're done." But unease crept into his voice. He turned off the TV, noticing that the dog, a golden retriever named Milo, stood near the door, whining softly. It was unusual. Emma had only been gone a short while, but even the dog seemed restless. By 8:30 p.m., Tom grabbed his jacket and keys. The night outside had turned heavy with fog, streetlights glowing like blurred halos. As he drove toward Brookfield Market, every passing minute felt colder, slower. His gut told him something was wrong. When he reached the store, the parking lot was nearly empty. The fluorescent sign still buzzed weakly above the door, but the interior was dark. The lights were off, and the doors were locked. Then he saw a car, parked neatly behind the building. The doors were unlocked, the groceries still on the passenger seat. A carton of milk had tipped over, dripping slowly onto the floor mat. Her phone lay between the seats, screen cracked, battery dead. Tom shouted her name into the fog. No answer, just the faint hum of a nearby power line and the rustle of wind through the empty street. He called the police, voice trembling as he explained what he'd found. Within 20 minutes, flashing red and blue lights painted the store's walls. But as officers searched the area, one detail made everyone uneasy. The car's engine was cold. She hadn't just parked it there. She'd been gone for hours. Detective Sarah Nolan sat in the dimly lit police viewing room, her eyes fixed on the flickering CCTV feed for Brookfield Market. The timestamp in the corner read 6:41 p.m. Emma was walking calmly through aisle 7, basket in hand, stopping briefly to read the label on a can. Everything about the footage felt ordinary until it didn't. At exactly 6 hours, 42 minutes and 9 seconds, the video jolted. One frame. Emma looking toward the end of the aisle, then static, then darkness. When the image returned, the clock in the corner jumped to 7:01 and 34 seconds p.m. 19 minutes of footage gone. Erased, skipped, or never recorded. Detective Nolan frowned, rewinding, pausing, and zooming in. No power outage, she muttered. No interference. Just missing time. She looked over at Officer Daniels, who was reviewing the external cameras. "You see her leave?" she asked. He shook his head slowly. No door activity. Motion sensors triggered once at 6:43 p.m., then nothing. Outside, Tom waited anxiously, pacing near the patrol cars. He watched the officers go in and out of the store, their flashlights cutting through the dark aisles. The place was eerily quiet, shelves neatly stocked, floor freshly mopped, but the air felt wrong, like the building itself was holding its breath. When the detectives finally came out, one of them carried a plastic evidence bag. Inside it, Emma's grocery list, written in her neat handwriting. A faint smear of red along the corner, almost like a fingerprint. The footage was sent to forensic analysts, but the gap remained unexplainable. The system hadn't glitched before or after that window of time. It was as if 19 minutes of reality had simply vanished. And yet in those 19 minutes, Emma Collins had disappeared completely. The next morning, Detective Sarah Nolan returned to Brookfield Market, this time with a warrant. The owner, Mr. Henry Grant, stood at the doorway, nervously wringing his hands. A man in his late 50s with a graying beard and deep lines beneath his eyes. He looked exhausted, but something in his gaze felt guarded. "I told you everything I know," he said quickly. "The store closed early that night. Power kept flickering, so I sent everyone home." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "Strange," she replied, "because your security system kept recording perfectly fine. No sign of an outage." Grant froze. His lips twitched like he wanted to argue, but didn't. Inside, the store smelled faintly of bleach. The aisles were spotless, too spotless, as though someone had scrubbed them overnight. She noticed a section of the floor near aisle 7 where the tiles were newer than the rest, freshly replaced, clean grout. "What's behind that back door?" Sarah asked, pointing toward a narrow hallway past the employee area. Grant hesitated. "Storage. Been sealed off for years." "Unseal it." Two officers pried the old metal latch loose. The door groaned open, releasing a burst of cold, stale air. Inside was a small, windowless room filled with dusty crates, and broken equipment. But in the corner, beneath a torn tarp, was a patch of dark concrete. It looked wet, though the rest of the floor was bone dry. Sarah knelt beside it, running her gloved hand over the surface. The smell was faint but unmistakable, metallic, sour. "Get a luminol kit," she ordered quietly. As the lights dimmed and the chemical spray spread across the floor, faint blue glows began to appear. Not random stains, but footprints. Bare footprints leading toward the far wall and stopping abruptly. When Sarah turned around, Mr. Grant was gone. 3 days after Emma's disappearance, Tom Collins sat alone in his living room, surrounded by unopened food containers and the faint, constant hum of the television. He hadn't slept in over a day. The house, once filled with Emma's soft laughter and the sound of her humming in the kitchen, now felt hollow, an echo of what used to be. Then his phone buzzed. It was Emma's number. For a second, Tom froze. His heart slammed in his chest. He answered immediately. "Emma? Emma, is that you?" No reply, just faint static followed by slow, uneven breathing. Then a whisper, so soft he almost missed it. "Don't come here." The line went dead. Tom stared at the phone in disbelief. The call log confirmed it. Emma Collins, 2:17 a.m., 19 seconds. Trembling, he called Detective Sarah Nolan, who arrived within the hour, her face pale as she replayed the voicemail on speaker. It wasn't just breathing. In the background, there was a faint hum, rhythmic, mechanical, like the sound of a refrigeration unit. Sarah's stomach tightened. She knew that sound. They traced the call's origin. It came from the same location, Brookfield Market. By dawn, a police unit was back at the store. But when they entered, everything was spotless. The floor had been freshly polished, every shelf reorganized. The closed for renovation sign hung on the front door. The back room, where footprints were found, sealed again, painted over. No trace of Mr. Grant. No trace of Emma. Nothing but the quiet hum of the freezers, still running, still cold. As Sarah stood in the empty aisle, her radio crackled faintly. Through the static came a whisper, the exact same voice, the same words. "Don't come here." Her blood ran cold. The store was empty, wasn't it? Months passed. The search for Emma Collins had long gone cold. The missing posters faded under the rain, peeling from lampposts and shop windows. Brookfield Market was permanently closed, its windows boarded, its sign removed. People in town stopped talking about it, though no one ever went near that block again after dark. Then, one morning, construction crews arrived to renovate the property. The new owners planned to reopen it under a different name, a fresh start for a place with a bad memory. But as they began tearing down walls and replacing insulation near the old cold storage section, one worker shouted, "You need to see this." Behind a metal panel, they found a hidden door, bolted shut and painted over. Inside was a narrow tunnel leading downward, carved directly into the foundation. The air was damp and freezing, thick with the smell of rot and mold. At the bottom, they found a small concrete chamber. Scattered across the floor were personal belongings, a woman's shoe, a cracked mobile phone, and several crumpled grocery receipts, one with Emma Collins written neatly across the top. Detective Sarah Nolan was called back to the scene. Her stomach turned as she shone her flashlight across the wall. Carved into the concrete, faint but unmistakable, were words scratched by fingernails. "He's still here." Forensic teams later confirmed traces of multiple DNA samples in the room, none belonging to Mr. Grant, who had vanished without a trace. The new owners abandoned the renovation. The building was condemned, sealed by authorities. But locals still swear that at night, when the fog rolls in, you can see the faint glow of the store's flickering lights through the boarded windows and hear the distant creak of shopping cart wheels echoing from inside. Emma Collins went to pick up groceries, but something or someone made sure she never left.